Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Are we all settled? All ready to go? Everybody ready to go? Yes? Okay, right. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome on this nice, yet another lovely sunny day. Okay, so just to start us off, just to notify everyone, we're not expecting any fire alarm this morning. So in the case of a fire alarm, exit the doors and building and make your way to the far end of the car park as per usual. Please turn off mobile phones or put them on silent. Welcome to member of the public, Mr. Grocott, and also Emily Radcliffe Briery, who's a student looking at how we do our processes. So best behaviour, everybody. So, right, straight into the minutes. So I'd just like to make a point myself about the minutes. I did make a point at the last meeting, the first meeting for me, that I don't want to be called chairman. I'm not a man. Maybe not obvious to everybody, but I'm not. So I'm either called chairwoman or chair, but I'm not a chairman, and it's riddled through the minutes and ignores that and has not recorded that. So I'd like an amendment to that effect in the minutes, if I may, Darryl. And other than that, I ask everybody if they're happy to approve the minutes of the last meeting at 14th of May 2026, which was our annual council meeting, as true record. Okay, does that need to be proposed, or is it? So would somebody like to propose the minutes? Councillor Birch, and who'd like to second them? Thank you, Simon. So all those in favour, please show.
That's clearly carried as amended. Thank you, Chair.
So item 2 is urgent business. So there's actually 2 items to raise under urgent business. Councillor Dommett, Nadine, has asked to have a piece about disposable barbecues, and as also we have an urgent item on LGR, strangely enough. So that will be taken under item 5. Item 3, exempt information. There is no need to divide the agenda. There's nothing I have before me that requires us to do that. Item 4, declarations of interest. Has anybody got any declarations of interest that they'd like to raise now regarding anything that we're going to discuss on the agenda today? No? Sorry, you've got it. Did you put your hand up? No. Okay. Okay, thank you. One thing I've just slightly missed is actually apologies for absence. We've had apologies from...
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies for this morning's meeting from Councillor Cooper, who's on the Teams link, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Allen, who's on the Teams link, Councillor De Winter is on the Teams link, Councillor Munoz is on the Teams link, and Councillor Dennis is also on the Teams link. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so item 5 is business brought forward by the Chair. So...
£10 in the fund.
Yep. Thank you, John. Very nice. £10. Okay, so the first thing is Councillor Dommett. I've received a request regarding whether the council should consider asking retailers to stop selling disposable barbecues to limit the risk of fire in our area. I'm taking this as an urgent matter today because, as we're aware, we're in the 3rd or 4th week of a heat wave, and everything is like tinder out there. We've already had some fires. Anyway, so I've consulted with the officers, and whilst the council has no legal powers to do this, there is a voluntary retailers code of practice. So as Chair of Council, on your behalf, I will ask our Director of Place, Governance and Regulatory Services to write to Devon and Somerset Fire Service and ask them to request that retailers refrain from selling disposable barbecues during this prolonged dry weather spell. Is everybody happy with that? Okay, thank you. And thank you to Councillor Dommett for raising that, very important. So the second item of business brought forward... Sorry, yes.
Sorry, can I say I would support that, as we in our ward had a very serious problem last weekend with a disposable barbecue that caused a large fire in Wembley Point, where 5 fire engines had to attend. So I would definitely support that.
Yeah, thank you. And that's the sort of thing that we can make reference to when communicating with the fire service to kind of reinforce the point. Thank you. Councillor Bonham. Yeah, you were red then. Not here.
Pressing the wrong one.
You need practice. Yeah, go on.
Is there no debate on this topic? Because personally, I'm not sure I support the proposal.
No, it's not, because it's been brought forward to me as a matter of urgent business, and it's my discretionary powers to accept something. We've got quite a large agenda item on LGR coming up next, and I really would like to allow the space for that.
Can I just put on record that I don't support the proposal?
Okay, absolutely, yeah, that can go on the record. Thank you. Yeah.
I think you'll just state why.
Yeah.
Why do I need to state why?
Everybody else generally content.
If people want me to state why, I'm happy to, but there's no time for debate.
Oh, okay, in one sentence.
Well, I think it's up to the users to be sensible, and we shouldn't limit people's choice. I'm quite happy to enjoy disposable barbecues in a safe location.
Thank you. Anybody else want to make a comment? Okay, Councillor Dommett.
Thank you. Just to come back on that, people like many governing bodies, the National Trust, the Fire Service, Dartmoor National Park, local councils have all put warnings out about the dangers of fire at the moment. So people are aware of the dangers and they're continuing to do it anyway. So if we can put another action in place to stop those fires and dangers going ahead, then I suggest we do so.
Anyway, there's no more debate except to say that there's, there's times when we have to take action, and I think to help everybody be safe. And being safe means not allowing things that could cause, unexpected fires. It's not dissimilar to the hosepipe ban, which is protecting our water services. So I think this is a very appropriate request to go to the Devon Fire Service. Yeah. So otherwise, is everybody happy if we just move forward? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you for the comments. Thank you. So we now have a report from Councillor Thomas, which is an urgent report regarding local government reform. Councillor Thomas, would you like to present the report?
Chair, thank you. Good morning, members, officers. The report, as you will see, is quite Spartan in what it does and doesn't say. It gives you a summary of, where we are. We've talked about nothing else over coffees, I'm sure, for the last few days since we had our meeting last week. Item 1, the executive summary, describes the 4 new unitary configurations. Item 2 gives the background and a timetable. An executive colleague pointed out to me somewhat glumly this morning that what this background does is shows how we wasted an entire year of this council's work doing something that the government patently wasn't interested in. Number 3 is next steps. You will see that is what the officer team are doing across the background. Chief Executive and senior officers working with colleagues across Devon. What I am going to do is give you some background that isn't in the report to what we've discovered since we met as a group last week, and that is that the results of the consultation, the statutory consultation, have come out, and surprise, surprise, members, it makes for interesting reading. So the government's chosen plan, which carves Devon into 4 unitary councils, leaving the rest of Devon behind, after the expanded Plymouth Exeter and Torbay, received just 20% positive support. 69% of responses were negative. The proposal ranked 4th out of the 5 options, ahead only of Torbay's alternative 4-council model. The chosen model, this model that we are stuck with, was rejected on every major test. Sensible geography, 24% positive, 72% negative. Ability to deliver, 21% positive, 71% negative. Reflecting local views and needs, 17% positive, 71% negative. And community engagement, 20% positive, 69% negative. So only 19% believed there was a strong public service and financial case for the proposed boundary changes. While it's fair to say that no proposal received overwhelming public support and consultation isn't a referendum. I suppose you might say that means the government's entitled to choose, but it cannot, it absolutely cannot, with credibly claim that this decision reflects the views expressed by Devon's residents, by its councils or by its organisations. I put that out there because I think it's really important that people know. People weren't asked to be statutory consultees, but they are entitled to know the results of the statutory consultation, which basically says that a decision has been made that does not reflect any of the questions that were asked. And I think that speaks to itself. I don't think I need to say anything more at this stage. You've got the next steps from an officer perspective. The commitment is there that we will carry on having all member briefings, and the exec will carry on working on your behalf to make this as smooth as possible. But I think for now, I will stop speaking and take questions, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Thomas. So questions. I'm aware that there's an amendment coming up, so I just want questions. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Birch, and then Councillor Dommett.
In the report at item 3 under implications, under the financial implications, it says there will be significant financial implications as a result of the decision, etc., etc., etc. And it does say that council will be made aware of the financial implications. So my question is, first of all, when will we be aware of the financial cost to this council as to what this exercise is going to cost us? And I think when a report is made, could I ask if it's possible that it includes the costs that this council has already incurred, especially over the period of 2025?
Thank you.
I'll go look at the Chief Executive.
Yeah, Chief Executive, I'd like to reply to that.
Thank you, Chair. So in simple terms, we don't know. Because the proposal wasn't one that we submitted, and we need to work together with colleagues across Devon in order to do that analysis. Lisa, in her capacity, Lisa Buckle, our Section 151, in that capacity is working with colleagues across Devon. The finance directors are already meeting in order to make this assessment. I understand that further external work will be commissioned from experts in local government finance, who will make an independent assessment of the full costs and implications across the whole of the new Devon geography, because of course it's critical that the 4 new councils work both individually but collectively for Devon, Torbay and Plymouth. So my understanding is that that work will be commissioned. It's an early piece of work, a very urgent piece of work in the process. And of course, we will report it back here in due course. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
And the previous costs?
So in terms of the previous costs, this council and other councils were given a grant from government to support the cost of work. As you know, we commissioned KPMG with 6 other councils across the Devon footprint. I haven't got the detailed cost with me, but I think that broadly speaking, the external funding was sufficient through collective action to cover the cost. But we will get the details back. Certainly, the biggest cost was really in terms of officer time, rather than the actual cash cost of doing that work.
Thank you. Councillor Dommett.
Thanks. I have a few things I want clarifying on the report. The first being at 1.3, where it talked about the new unitaries, the 4 of them. The first is called Devon Coast and Countryside, and then the further 3 are talking about expanded existing councils. Can we change those to the new council names, or can we change the first one to a reduced Devon?
So the report was written. Sorry, Chair, to jump straight in. So the report was written when we only had the initial letter from the Secretary of State. Subsequently, late on Tuesday, we received confirmation of the intended formal naming of the councils. I think the leader might even have the copy in front of him. So.
I just want it to be really clear that these are all new councils, not continuations of existing councils.
Well, I think the leader made that clear in his
Can we make it clear in the report?
What I would say, members, is that the letter that we've received on Tuesday night we will happily discuss now, but we're intending to circulate to all members in the member briefing on Friday. It confirms the names of the 4 councils, with the council that will cover most of this area being called Devon Council.
Can I just come in there? It's worth pointing out the letter which tells us that the councils will be Exeter Council, Torbay and South Devon, Greater Plymouth and Devon Council, goes on to say, it is necessary that the new councils have a legal name, will be set out in the secondary legislation establishing them. Once established, the new councils will have the same powers as other local councils to change their name, should they wish to do so. Brackets, local authorities may change their name under Section 74 of the Local Government Act 1972 if they convene a council meeting for that purpose and secure the support of 2/3 of members voting at that meeting. So even the names that they're giving us are only their suggestions as a starting point. New shadow authorities, once constituted into formal bodies, can then change the name to whatever they like, as long as
Okay.
2/3 of members agree.
So that's, yeah, a different take on the naming issue that I have. My issue is that you're looking at the Plymouth City, the Torbay Council and Exeter other councils in the way that it's listed currently. So I just want that edited, because it's currently saying an expanded council as opposed to 4 new councils.
So sorry, I thought I'd explained, but at the point in time at which the report was drafted, we only had the first letter from the Secretary of State. It wasn't clear within that letter precisely what the status of those councils were, so we weren't able to say it. But the subsequent letter we received late on Tuesday has absolutely confirmed that all 4 of the councils will be new councils.
Okay.
It's absolutely that's absolutely the position.
Yeah, no, that's it.
And
Thank
as I
you,
said,
Nikki.
it's set out the proposed names for the council first instance.
Okay, the second point of clarity I'm looking for, you've kind of outlined next steps, and we're noting that next steps aren't going to be talked about until the next meeting. But within 3.1, it says that South Cam's focus will now be on the creation of the Devon Coast and Countryside Council. We've had previous discussions where you have been, Andy Bates, behind the scenes in your strategic planning group with your focus. But our council focused on the South Hams.
Sorry, so if I can, Chair, so we will continue to be a council as South Hams District Council until the 31st of March 28. We will continue to be statutorily responsible for all of the services that we currently provide. So that will carry on until that point. Nothing will change in terms of our responsibilities, what we do and how we do it. But a new council will be elected in May next year, which will become a shadow council, and that will begin to plan for the new councils, which will be stood up formally on the 1st of April 28 as well. So we'll have that parallel running. We will, of course, work with colleagues across Devon now to start to begin to plan for that implementation process. We will, of course, focus on all aspects, because we need to focus on the parts of the South Hams which will potentially be transferring into an expanded Plymouth. Well, we know they are now. We'll need to focus on the parts of the South Hams that will be incorporated into expanded Torbay, and we'll also need to focus on the bits of South Hams which will be brought together with a number of other districts and the county council. So we'll be working on all of those elements.
So can we remove that sentence that says that our focus will now be on the creation of the Devon Coast and Countryside Council?
Well, sorry, I'll keep trying to make the same point really, which is we can't really change the report because it was factually the facts at the time the report was published. But what we're saying is things have moved on. We'll be reporting that, and it will be absolutely made clear. And the minutes will also make clear the change in status as well.
Okay, so then with the recommendation that we need to vote on, and it says that we will be setting out the next steps, does that need to be edited for me to be able to vote, considering I don't agree with the next steps with the focus on the South Hams, on the coast and countryside?
So I've been made aware that there's an amendment coming forward So I think that's may answer some of your questions, be helpful to you. Okay, so that's not been tabled yet, but obviously this is very much a moving target. It's really challenging for all of us, and I think it's absolutely correct to sort of check exactly what we're looking at here and what we may or may not be voting on. But I do think we need to recognise that what we do today is probably going to be a different sort of underpinning in 2 months' time, because there's other councils that also we're all kind of there's working separately, but also ideally together as we go forward to try and make this a much better deal for Devon in entirety. So,
My worry is that I've already been involved in a couple of conversations this week, excluding the lost parishes in conversations of plans and strategies going forwards. And
I'm going to suggest that when we get to debate, Councillor Dommett moves an amendment on the first recommendation that is on the screen at the moment, and that a further report setting out next steps that deal with the whole of the South Hams be considered by council at its next meeting. And I think the simple insertion of those few words would probably assuage your concerns.
Thank you, Chairman. So Councillor Evans, the leader of Plymouth City Council, last Monday in a meeting publicly stated that all his employees, all the council employees in Plymouth, their jobs were safe. If we are having a new council in each of the 4 areas, will all the other chief leaders of the other councils be saying that all their employees' jobs are safe, or is that not the case?
Councillor Thomas.
I don't think Councillor Evans was probably in a position to say that, quite honestly, at this stage. But then let's be honest, and we are politicians ourselves, Councillor Hopwood, a relationship with the truth is not always the central tenet of a politician, is it?
Did you want to say
I wasn't aimed at Councillor Hopwood for the absolute avoidance of doubt, nor was it aimed at me. It's a statement of fact that, unfortunately, sometimes politicians at all levels, when a microphone is put in front of them, say things that might or might not be true. More importantly, I think in defence of Councillor Evans, they probably say things that they would like to be true. But whether they're actually true or not, whether you can conceivably know that at this stage is another matter. If I was asked about South Hams District Council staff, I would say that the senior leadership at South Hams will do absolutely everything they can to make sure that every single member of staff that wants a job in a new unitary authority will be accommodated where at all possible. And I think that is realistically all you can say at this stage, and to say more would be an unkindness, to be honest.
Thank you for clarifying that, Leader.
We are very much at the state of hopes and dreams at the moment, so let's just bear that in mind as we go forward. Councillor Bonham.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think we all recognise the difficulty of the situation and the large number of questions and unknowns and potential risks over the next period, some of which, perhaps most of which, can't be answered or even listed. But what I'd like to ask maybe officers through the Chair, if I may, or Leader if you can, is what are the major concerns for this council in the next 9 months or so that we might, as members, need to be aware of? And I'm not talking about things that, would happen after next May. I'm talking about concerns that we should be aware of, either costs or risks or exposure or resource constraints or whatever it may be, that we should be at least cognizant of and aware that you're handling in the best way possible.
I'll start, I think, and I'm going to split this into 3. Cognizant of the point Councillor Dommett's been making, I think the most important point, if you are in the west of the district, is that those of us representing the west, have conversations with Plymouth as quickly as possible that protect the integrity of the villages and the town in the 13 area to the west. I think equally, if you're in the east, the same needs to be the case with Councillor Thomas in Torbay. about the integrity of those villages. There's a lot of concern both to the west and the east about the term land grab has been used, but in reality, what we're worried about is building communities into each other, building across green fields to connect communities, as was the case, for example, between Plympton and Plymstock and Plymouth. I think the biggest concern in the middle, for the bit of the South Hams that will go into the Greater Devon or Devon Council, immediately is the warding, which which officers behind the scenes are trying to work on an incredibly complex map covering 103 new elected councillors across the entire Greater Devon area, and getting that right, and being asked to get that right before the 17th of August. And that's going to be a really tough challenge. And I think what will actually happen is that they will do their best, and then at some point over the next 4 years, there'll be a community governance review that will re-examine it. And so things will almost certainly change. So what you get for the shadow elections next May will not necessarily be what the situation looks like 5 years after that at the next full round of elections. But I think those are probably the most important things at this stage, and I'll yield to the Chief Executive to add in all the many things that I've missed.
Thank you, Leader. I don't think you've missed anything at all, actually, other than I would say all of those relate to the creation of the new entities. I'm confident we've got the capacity, knowledge, skills and expertise to deliver on this council's work through to the 31st of March 28. That's the critical thing. Service delivery must continue for our residents. We must deliver on the council's plans, its ambitions set out in the council plan. We need to continue to support with our communities as we do that. We absolutely need to continue to support our staff, manage them well, support them through this change process as well. I'm absolutely confident we can do all of those things. The pressure comes around the additional capacity required in order to plan the implementation for the new arrangement. So that's where I and the senior leadership team will be having our discussions. We're already doing that. We're already thinking about how we move and realign responsibilities in order to, for example, give Mr. Hawke more time to work on this because he's critical to it. I was speaking yesterday with Mr. Molyneux with a view to 2 of the 3 directors taking a notional lead, for example, on facing off to Plymouth on the one side, facing off to Torbay on the other, in order that I can concentrate on the work to support the creation of the new Devon Council. So we're already having those conversations, but the real issue is about the additional capacity for reorganisation rather than the capacity of the council to deliver its services here and now. And of course, Leader, I'll bring reports back to you, the executive, should I think that there are any risks around that or any additional capacity required.
Councillor Carson.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask, when the announcement was made, what we did as a council to reply? Did we reply with we're not happy, we're upset? We do have a new Prime Minister, and I'm led to believe that he hasn't seen this proposal.
Sorry.
Do you want to answer that?
Oh yeah. So there was the immediate immediate press release that went out in my name, and there is a letter going to the new Prime Minister from me as well on behalf of the council, just expressing our concerns. So that's gone from us. A similar one has gone from West Devon. The county leader, Julian, you wrote to Prime Minister pretty much immediately, didn't you, on the issue of the strategic mayoral authority and the requirement for that. So Whitehall has been, either through press releases or letters, Whitehall has received plenty of communication saying we're not happy. Either has received or is in the process of receiving. So yeah, we've communicated as much as. I think that the problem is that there are none so deaf as those that will not listen.
Very well read. Very well read.
He did say he'd look after every postcode, though, didn't he? The new Prime Minister did say he would look after every postcode.
I refer you to the remarks I made about politicians some moments ago.
So can I just check that press release has been circulated to everybody, has it?
Yeah.
Right, okay, so you can all check for that. Thank you. Okay, thanks everybody. I think that's the end of questions. So I think we need to move into the debate now, and I understand there is a proposal for amendment. Is that
Before you do that, Chair, I need to move the recommendation as appears on the screen.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'd like to second that, please.
Thank you.
Councillor Birch.
I'd like to propose an amendment. Mr. White would like to put it on the screen. I think I need a seconder. Okay.
Seconded by Councillor Bonham. Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay. The reason for introducing this amendment is really to hopefully reflect the concerns, disappointment and the views of this council. In other words, we're not just going to sit down and let the show roll on. So if I could just go through the proposed amendment. Items 2 and 3 are a very brief summary of what I have interpreted as this council's concerns and views on what has just happened by way of reorganisation. So the point of 2 and 3 is to summarise as briefly as possible the views of this council as to the model of reorganisation. So that deals with, that's 2 and 3. Item 4, what we need to bear in mind as a council is that a while back, quite a long while back, full council gave full delegated authority to the executive to deal with all matters relating to the reorganisation. And therefore, any action being taken in respect of reorganisation needs to be initiated by the executive. And therefore, item 4 is for this council making a recommendation to the executive for it to take action. And the 2 action points there are what is open to this council to respond, be a response to the model proposed by the government. The first deals with the matter of this council supporting and endorsing any application for a judicial review. Now, as it is public knowledge that the county council is given serious consideration to the commencing or instigating judicial review proceedings. That being the case, and if it is minded to proceed, then this part of the amendment is making a recommendation to the executive that this council support and endorse such an application. It's an ongoing process, and there is an executive meeting in September which will provide further details on what is happening there. And then from that meeting in September, the executive will then have the authority from this council to, well, not the authority, but the support of this council to, as it says there, support and endorse. And then the second bullet point in respect to 4 is for the executive call on the new Secretary of State for Housing to reconsider the LGR proposals. Now, I understand that this is taking place throughout Devon with other councils, and so this is this council asking the executive to do what is happening elsewhere. So I hope that reflects, the amendment reflects the thoughts and views of this council, and that you will support it. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Birch. I just need to check. Can everybody see the screen? Is anybody who's struggling? You've got it. Okay. So you've got it. Fine, that's fine. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry, Chair. Just to say that yes, we can, but I think once again in the future, if there are amendments, if they can be circulated in advance, because it is really hard to see from this side of the room.
Yeah, that's why I was just double checking.
So would you like me to read it out, if that helps?
Yeah, why not? Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, the amendment is the LGR model selected by the government for the creation of 4 unitary authorities for Devon demonstrates its failure to understand or appreciate the needs of the county's rural towns and villages, as well as our coastal communities. 3. The government's decision to go ahead with the expansion of Plymouth, Exeter and Torbay is very much at the expense of the remaining parts of the county and entirely at odds with its stated aim of ensuring local government meets the needs of all of Devon. 4. Council therefore recommend to the executive that, and the first bullet point is, as there may well be legal grounds for a judicial review challenge in respect of the government's decision, and that being the case, subject to further consideration of all relevant information and receiving appropriate advice, the executive be minded to give council support and endorsement for any such application for a judicial review, with an objective that the government's LGR model for Devon be withdrawn or revised. And then the second bullet point, notwithstanding the potential for a judicial review, the executive will call on Angela Rayner MP, Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, to reconsider the untenable LGR proposals for Devon and calls on the local MPs to support this demand for reconsideration.
Thank you, Councillor Birch. Councillor Bonham, you're seconding this. Do you want to speak now or do you want to speak later?
May I speak later, Chair, if that's okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next person that's asked to speak is Councillor Brazil, and then I've got you, Councillor Hotwood. Sorry, yeah, getting this down the wrong, aren't I? So, Councillor Thomas, do you actually accept the amendments?
I have a quick question first for Councillor Birch. I don't know whether in number 3 in the background, I referred in my opening comments to the fact that it wasn't just untenable because of its operation, it was actually completely at odds with the results of the statutory consultation. I don't know whether it would be worth inserting an extra line into number 3 that says, so the government's decision to go ahead with the expansion is very much at the expense of the remaining parts of the county and entirely at odds with its stated plan of ensuring local government meets needs. It is also entirely at odds with the results of its own statutory consultation, which saw the plan as ranked 4 out of 5. I don't know whether it's worth putting that in.
If we can just wait for Darryl to get that on the screen.
Sorry to do that to you, Mr. White. Which saw, yeah, it's entirely at odds with the results of its own public consultation exercise, where 4 unitaries came 4th out of 5.
I might just add that the amendment actually doesn't take away item 1. So it's the government, the council notes that first part from the actual initial recommendation.
If I may, Chair, that's why I recommended to Councillor Dommett to amend the recommendation as it was, because it would still stand as part of the substantive. But otherwise, with that, if Councillor Birch and Councillor Bond are happy with that, what they are, I'm happy to accept that amendment to form part of the substantive recommendation if Councillor Hotwood is as well.
Chairman, I am, but I am happy to accept the amended proposal, recommendation. However, I think it needs to be made clear in point 4 that we will be supporting Devon County Council. We are not doing a judicial review as South Hams. It is actually Devon County. Do you think it's clear enough to residents?
That's the wording is carefully worded, so it says council's support and endorsement.
Okay.
It does not state and will implement or commence.
I think that flexibility will be helpful, quite frankly, personally. Yeah. Okay, so are we ready to go then? So we've got the amendment in there.
Substantive motion is on the screen.
So this is now the substantive motion because it's been accepted by Councillor Thomas.
Still stands in number 1.
It's already in.
It's in there, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Brazil.
Yeah, I know. So, okay, so I'm just checking that we've got everything up there ready for everybody. Right. So, Councillor Brazil, would you like to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And perhaps with your indulgence, Chair, I could go slightly off-piste and inform members where we are at county, because you may find that interesting, particularly in light of the motion here around LGR. So at county, we have already put in a number of freedom of information requests to ministers about how they feel that their chosen model fits the criteria that they set. They set us some exam questions, we answered it in good faith, and then they appear to have come back with a totally different answer with totally different criteria. And so that will be the basis of our judicial review. You know, if you set the test, we've answered it, and then other people have answered it without answering the questions, and then but they have been given credit, and that's been the proposal that's been accepted. So we've done the freedom of informations. That will be followed by a pre-action letter by the end of this month. So by next weekend, we will have this is all part of the JR process. We have a cabinet meeting in September where that will officially endorse our position to issue a JR in respect of LGR in Devon to government. That's in cabinet. We've actually got until the 16th of October is the cut-off date by which point you have to have submitted a JR. That's the time limit, so we'll be in plenty of time there. Can I just preface those remarks by saying, or whatever it is afterwards, is saying that we are not opposed to LGR in principle. You know, we can see some of the advantages of it, and so that's not what this is about. What this is about is if you're going to do LGR, do it properly, and this isn't. This is a shocker. And to that, the other thing I would say is that I am confident, and we are confident that if nothing changes, that by April 28, we will be safe and legal in respect of the 4 authorities that come forward at that stage. So I wouldn't be confident if government were trying to do it, quite frankly. I mean, they are totally inept and incompetent, and it would take them at least 20 years to do this, I would have thought. I mean, they've already shown themselves with what they've done here that they don't know what's going on. You know, I feel for the people of Totnes. Half of you will be in Torbay, half of you will be in Devon Council. Other areas, Kingswear and Dartmouth, historically, a community split in two, and there are examples across the county where that is the case. A complete lack of understanding of Devon and Devon residents and Devon's people. So that's it. Just a couple of other things I will say is that from November, and these are quite technical issues, there will be the setting up of joint committees for each unitary. Those joint committees will be made up of unitary councillors, i.e. in Plymouth and Torbay, district and county councillors. And those joint committees will be putting forward their ideas, which will then feed into, and then in May 27, the shadow authorities will be formed. So they will set the agenda and the questions. It may be that the shadow authorities, when they're formed in May 27, and I'm talking about November this year, the joint committees will be formed. It may be in May 27 that the shadow authorities say, we're not interested in what you said, we're going to totally go our own way, and and you can forget about it, because they have the authority and the power to do that. So when we have people like Tudor saying that, oh, don't worry, all your jobs are safe. Tudor is yesterday's man. Come May next year, he'll be out of a job, quite frankly, because we all know that there's no way Labour are going to hold on to Plymouth. And likewise in Exeter, with the expanded Exeter, there is no way that Labour will have control of those councils. So the joint committees and then the shadow authorities will be the big players when it comes to it. So don't take any notice of what people are saying now. It's a bit like me as leader of the county saying, well, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. I've got no powers whatsoever. In the end, come May next year, that's gone. It will sit with the shadow authorities. What I would say is that we are very keen as a Devon County Council, to come up with a vision of how we see delivering services to all of Devon in the best possible ways. And this is what we were striving to do before this wretched LGR came along. So where we see services delivered at a very strategic level, that's what should happen. And where we see it at a more local level, and particularly say around planning, we think that that should be devolved down to local areas. So what we're hoping is that all shadow authorities will buy into that vision. And that means that whatever government says, we might change a few nameplates, but basically we will continue doing what we were doing, which was a journey, an evolution to LGR, rather than their revolution of cutting off. That will be both cheaper, more effective, and we won't lose the staff and the services that we already have. That's a quick run over of the position at the county at the moment. We've got a special meeting in August. Members will know that I've been kicking and screaming to a meeting in August, but there we go. Sacrifices we have to make, but there we are. So that's on the 10th of August, and hopefully that will give some clarification as to where we are. It's a special cabinet meeting which will talk about the warding arrangements, and just on the warding arrangements, I hope that in the report that comes back to this council is that it is noted, and this is another example of what's going on, is that if you live in Exeter or the Exeter surrounding areas, as a resident, you will have a lot more democratic representation in councillors than if you live in a rural area. It's almost double the number of residents per councillor in the rural area than it is in the city. The government has literally said they're more important than you and they need more representation than if you live in a rural area. It's absolutely shocking what is going on. They've tried cancelling elections. They've created a obviously politically biased LGR. They've sidelined the Boundary Commission to create these warding arrangements that they think is an affront to democracy, quite frankly. Anyway, that's just a couple of other things quickly. The four unitary model will cost in the region of £80 million to implement. So when you're talking to people, the JR that we're proposing will probably cost about £250,000, and people may say, well, you shouldn't be wasting money. You're not going to win. I'd say we'll compare that to the 80 million that we will have to spend to implement this wretched plan that they've come up with. And just the other thing, and it may be a surprise to people, but it is the case, is that 2 of the new unitaries will be bankrupt from day one. So they will go into special financial measures, and they are the Greater Exeter and the Greater Torbay ones. Ironically, as it stands, the big rural Devon Council will be okay, partly because we have less call-on services, and we have well, in short, we've got bigger houses. Yeah, on average. But what I will say is that what we have seen from this government is that they are not frightened to take money from one council and give it to another. So whereas we might think we're okay, we may be okay from day one. Those special economic measures will mean that council tax will go up, probably for all of us, and grant funding from government will move from rural to urban. So if you live in a rural area, you'll probably be paying for an urban area. And council tax, and you can rest assured, council taxes will be going up. Absolutely no doubt about it. The revenue deficit within the 4 councils is in the region of 100 million. So that's council tax going up by about £250, £300. About 10% council tax will be going up. And at the same time, almost invariably, services will go down. Now, people have said to me, you're being too negative about it. Well, I believe in honesty, and what I don't want to do is for it all to go belly up and then for people to turn around and go, well, it's the local council fault. No, it's not. It's being imposed on us by a central government who haven't got a clue how Devon works, and they're showing no indication of listening to us about what it is. I think we have to fight this every which way we can, and that's what we intend to do.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. So, I've got Councillor Nix next.
Thank you, Chair. Whilst I agree with the motion in principle, I'm just a bit concerned that it's biased towards the Devon coast and countryside. Obviously, there are issues, as somebody's already said, about the splits in Totnes and Dartmouth, and also the 13 parishes that are going into Plymouth who absolutely stated that they didn't want to. They would go anywhere but into Plymouth. So I just feel that the line in number 3 is a bit biased without that sort of more collaborative and whole approach of the whole of Devon.
Thank you. So thank you, Councillor Nix. Councillor Carson. What's wrong? Right, Councillor Penfold.
Yes, thanks. I want to reiterate what Councillor Nix just said. I think residents, if they read number 3.3, it implies very strongly that somehow those areas, those parishes that are going to go into Torbay and the other big urban areas are going to be at an advantage. And I think, as Councillor Brazil has just said, it's likely they're going to be ending up paying for the urban area that they're moving into. And I think any resident reading that statement will not understand that, will not appreciate that statement. So I think it needs to be revisited, please.
Thank you. Councillor Yardy.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions on to Julian. The Boundary Commission you said has been disabled. So that is not the mechanism. So you're saying that is not the mechanism that we will use going forward to resolve boundary issues. That was one question. I haven't got the information in front of me, but I struggle to understand how the Devon Country and Coast, whatever it's called, will be financially viable. As John McKay, you put into your little summary, there's 5,000 square kilometres. There's a demographic of ageing people that will significantly increase the ADS budget, never mind anything else. And there's the need for effective delivery of services, including national health care services. I know, because I've studied some of the economics, that the ability to deliver over such a wide area is driven by the geography. It's not a small area. Before you've delivered 1 hour of services, you need an immense infrastructure to provide make that happen. So I would ask that we put into potentially number 2 a statement to and effective delivery of services on point 2. So I would like to propose a possibility of adding and effective delivery of services to point 2. So it's appreciating the needs of the country's rural towns and villages and effective delivery of services. So it's that effective delivery of services, which I just simply do not understand in the current proposed LGR options. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's basically you're proposing an amendment.
Yes.
Yeah. So do I have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor McKay. Okay. So so Councillor Thomas and Councillor Hotwood, do you accept that amendment?
Yeah, happy to.
Okay. Thank you. So that remains as the substantive, just taking us forward. Councillor Bonham.
Well, Chair, I don't really understand the process, but is it not up to Councillor Birch and myself also to comment on that amendment?
No, because it's now, this isn't, your amendment was swallowed into the substantive motion.
Yeah, keep up, Lynn, keep up. Okay.
I should read the rule book.
We do the work.
Thank you.
You did.
Yeah, you do the work, and Councillor Hopwood and I will take the glory.
Thank you. Councillor Hopwood.
Thank you, Chairman. I just think it's worth pointing out that, and this is a prime example of all political groups in this council working together, because actually we are leaving politics out of this. We are looking at it for the greater good of the residents we are representing. I think that really is an important point, and I hope that other councils within the area do exactly the same. We need to take the politics out of it and do the best for our residents.
It's a good point. I think cross-party working on this is very important for our residents to see, and also to make us stronger in what we want to achieve out of this. Does anybody else wish to speak on this? Sorry. Oh, sorry, Councillor.
Thank you. So just going back to Councillor Nix and Councillor Penfold's point, can we possibly propose an amendment to item 3, adding in the words disadvantages those parishes moving into the expanded areas, in between where it says remaining parts of the county, and entirely at odds with something along those lines. But just to repeat, disadvantages those parishes moving into the expanded areas. Thank you.
I had put in mine, Councillor Dennis, I'd put in mine to the manifest dismay of residents in those affected areas after the government's decision to go ahead with the expansion of Plymouth, Exeter and Torbay. I was going to come in with to the manifest dismay of residents in those affected areas and then carry on. But I guess whichever, it means the same thing, doesn't it? It's basically pointing out that the people in those areas aren't happy about it. Don't mind which.
Thank you. Yeah. So do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Nix, thank you. Okay, so Leader, you're happy, and Councillor Hopwood, happy to accept that?
There's so many amendments.
Are you happy to accept it?
We'll just accept them.
Okay, right. So that becomes again part of the substantive. Thank you. This is known as making something by committee. It's always recommended not to do that, isn't it? But we're doing very well. Well done. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So back to Councillor Hancock.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I mean, absolutely support the motion, but I'd just like to make a couple of points about LGR in general. I mean, firstly, I think I'm very much aware, not least because of the job of my partner at home, that whilst we're here as part-time elected members, that it is the careers and livelihoods of officers across the county who will be hugely impacted by the local government reorganisation decisions, not least where they will be working, out of what places, if there are jobs available for them all in the future. And I think it's really important that we as elected members remember and acknowledge the incredible work that officers across the county have done, are doing, and will continue to do, I'm sure, into the future. Secondly, I think just relating to my planning portfolio, I am quite concerned. Obviously, members will be aware that we're going through a new local plan. I'm quite concerned about the impact of local government reorganisation on the on South Hams, particularly the parishes that will be moving into Greater Plymouth or Greater Torbay. The guidance from government at the moment, as far as I understand it, is very unclear as to the status of the plan making going forward, though government is very clear that it wants plan making to be happening and happening at pace. Though happening at pace, the place in which the plan making will be happening is now unclear. We do not know, for example, currently, whether our plan will contain all of South Hams as it currently stands, or whether those parishes affected will now be in the plan making of Plymouth City Council or Torbay Council. Obviously, in the future, the 13 parishes moving into Plymouth City Council will come under their plan making anyway. The point is, over the next 2 years, what I am not clear on is if Plymouth City Council is responsible for plan making in those 13 parishes, what is the formal mechanism for elected members of those 13 parishes to input into that plan making process? I hope that Plymouth City Council and the lead member for planning over there takes a responsible approach to this and actively engages with members from the affected parishes and wards, so that they can input fully into the process. Notably, because as we've all read in the letter, the reason, the substantive reason for the decision, based on what the Secretary of State has said, is that the 4 unitary proposal better enables those cities, those urban areas, to grow and build houses in. And I think it is, we're not naive, and we all, my conversations that I've had with members about our planning, we all know where the development land is in South Hams, but it is essential that elected members can represent their communities in that plan making process if it is going to be driven by Plymouth City Council, so that plan making is not done to residents but done with them. So I hope that is raised as part of the engagement that the leadership of the council, both politically and through officers, is raised as a matter of urgency. And I trust that Plymouth City Council will be responsible for the placemaking that they're taking over. But I think we will need to have clarification going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Hancock. It's a really important issue, and just if I'll come. I've got you down, Councillor. I think something I would just say is that I'm on the scrutiny for the combined authority. The combined authority still remains and is still very much will sit regardless of what happens underneath it. And on there, they have now taken over transport and also housing for the county. As it's all of us except Plymouth. Plymouth has yet to kind of confirm it wants to go in, but I understand that is part of on the cards at the moment. So in theory, that actually will be sort of, there'll at least be some overview going on, and I have actually already asked some months ago now, how will that sit with local plans, and they will be taken into consideration, was said. But of course, with all this change going on, it's a bit of a kind of a mix. But I think it's really important points to make, because again, it's about sense of place. Councillor Dommett, you're next, and then I have Councillor Carson and Councillor Dennis. Is that correct?
And you've got Ray Covey.
And sorry.
Yeah, to David's point, we have a legal obligation to do a local plan for the South Hams. When that changes, not only are the lost parishes going to Plymouth or Torbay, but the South Hams is no longer going to exist. That's going to a new unitary. So I don't understand why the lost parishes are being talked about not being included in the local plan when none of the locality will exist anymore. So it's either all of the South Hams or none of the South Hams. I don't understand why there is conversation around not including those.
Well, they're not going to disappear. That's the fact of the matter.
Neither are we.
But exactly, and we've got a year in which to actually make preparations for that transfer, and there'll be a further year when there'll be everything together getting muddled and hopefully sorted out. So I think it's really good to remember these points, but I don't think we're going to sort it out today. But I think it's good that we have them on our sort of minutes of this recording of this meeting.
Thank you, Chair. We were at Brixton Parish Council last night just to reply to Councillor Hancock's questions. Our local plan letter was read out, but they've also got the exact same thing from Plymouth. So they're already making their mark on the parish councils and asking for plots of land.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dennis.
Thank you. I'm aware from the Chief Executive's comments earlier that obviously further details have been communicated since this report was written, but what I've been unclear about is how I think the government asked for certain things by mid-August in terms of warding arrangements, etc. I'm unclear how those decisions will be made, particularly in respect of the Devon Coast and Countryside area. Councillor Brazil referred when he spoke to Devon County Council having meetings about warding arrangements. Is it Devon County Council that will take the lead on that? And obviously the leader of Tor Bay and leader of Plymouth for those areas. Just appreciate some clarity on that before our next meeting in September, when I know we will have an update, but it sounds as if those decisions will already be made by September.
There's obviously some questions coming for Councillor Brazil, but I'm just going to take the other questions first, if I may. Okay, go on then, Councillor Thomas.
So across the county, the combined officer group together with the county chief exec is the SRO is the main man, if you like, and then under that, or main lady in her case, under that, the chief execs of North Devon and Teignbridge have been charged with warding. So they are currently working on the warding arrangements in terms of trying to get the numbers right. Mr. Powell and our team are working into them. So it's being done, coordinated across the county using different chief execs. So while those chief execs are looking after warding, other chief execs are looking after different aspects of what's going on. So yesterday we had a meeting at County Hall where we asked some questions, and I alluded to it in my remarks earlier on. I think the reality is it's going to be a really difficult task to get the warding right, and I don't think, Councillor Dennis, when you and I look at it, we will think any more than anyone else that it is right. It will be imperfect, and what will happen is that over the course of the 4-year term of the new authority, there'll be a community governance review involving the Boundary Commission where boundaries will actually change. And what that's proof of is this is being done too quickly. The government are actually basically saying we cannot do it within good time, so we won't worry about it. We'll just do we'll get councils to do the best job they can, and then we'll look at it in slow time. Whereas, of course, the obvious thing to do would have said, if you make the process slower in the first instance, you could have got it right before you got to the first vesting day, but they've chosen not to do that. But the answer to your question is it's being worked on by specific chief executive officers across the county.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Pannell, then Councillor Rake, then Councillor Bonham.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to mention what I consider will be the democratic deficit in terms of people who will be able to stand for election to these new bodies. I can remember the setting up of South Hams 50 years ago, and in the subsequent years that followed, members were poorly compensated for the time they had to give. The result was that the majority were elderly, retired, mostly male, very few female members in those days, as Councillor Hopwood will remember. When my wife joined at the age of, I think, about 37, 38, she was one of the youngest members on the council. When she stepped down 28 years later, she was still one of the youngest members on the council. I think this is an important job that we have seen in recent years, an influx of younger people, which is good for the council. We've seen an influx, hopefully, of more a balanced mix of male and female members. And we are in danger with the workload that that is going to be put on new members of these authorities of seeing that we're going to revert to the situation where only those who are retired or wealthy or have a job which allows them time off, which, although the law says it should, many employers are reluctant to do, or if they run their own business and therefore can take time off, we're going to find a very different profile of people who are able to do this job. And I'm really concerned about the makeup of councils going forward.
Thank you. Councillor Rake.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say that some of the comments and debate have sort of suggested that some places have won a prize here, that Exeter and Plymouth have somehow got what they wanted. This is no prize for anybody. This is no prize for the residents of Plymouth. This is no prize for the residents of Exeter. This is no prize for anybody in Devon in terms of the level of service, the level of democratic representation that they can expect going forward. And I think that, ultimately, all the lines on the map, those that exist at the moment and those that are proposed, are artificial boundaries. And I think that I just think we should let that inform our debate, because there are no winners here, apart from perhaps the narrow political interests of leaders of Plymouth and Exeter councils. So that's that.
Thank you. Councillor Bonham.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I want to first say thank you to people who have made amendments to the amendment, because I think that has improved things, and I appreciate the comments and suggestions made. I think it's very important from our point of view to make a clear and strong statement that this is not the right decision for the people of South Hams, for the people of Devon, and probably for the wider area of Plymouth, Exeter, and so on. When we go back to the very first survey, I think we put forward of the public and what they wanted from LGR, two important indications came out as far as I remember. People said that they wanted high quality services to remain and be delivered for them, and they wanted decisions, democratic, close to their communities. I think we can see in this LGR that neither of those are likely to be delivered for a number of reasons. They'll be disrupted. Despite what Councillor Rake said, I think we should take a look for a moment at the reasons that the Minister gave, the primary reasons for the decision of this four-way split. The first point was that it supports increased housing supply and economic growth. And then the Minister goes on to talk about the boundary changes enabling 3 of Devon's key economic centres, Exeter, Plymouth and Torbay, to grow at the scale required to realise their long-term economic potential. There may be some benefits for them, but I think we can conclude from that there's not going to be many benefits for what's remaining. The area of Devon County has got no central large town. It's not a coherent area. It's got very wide geographies. Communities are going to be split, as we've heard, including Totnes and Dartmouth and Kingswear and so on. There's going to be ongoing challenges, I think, from finance and governance point of view. If I remember correctly, in the latest finance allocation, rural areas of the country got an increase of pretty much 0, if I'm correct, maybe. And the urban areas got an increase, I think, of 4.5% or 5% overall. So we can see that the finance of this Devon County is going to be challenged in the longer term. This reorganisation needs to be thinking of the long-term benefits for the our communities, and I don't think it does. The proposal was put forward by only 2 of the authorities. I think Torbay's expansion wasn't even required or requested by them. Overall, I think it's quite frankly an insult to the people of Devon, and in particular an insult to the 36% of the population that will be in Devon County, because their needs, quite frankly, are not being recognised. So I do believe the motion now represents a pretty strong objection by this council, which is why I'm very happy to support it. And I believe the actions or recommendations for the executive are thoroughly sensible, and I hope will be recognised by both the government, and also it needs to be a signal to our communities and residents that we are not at all in favour and we see grave concerns in the future for them and for the county overall. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to answer your question, it was 90%, county got 90% of the budget it asked for, so it was a reduction of 10% in terms of the budget just this year, and that was based on including all the urban areas, so
Yeah.
goodness knows what we face into.
Thank you.
Councillor Steele.
Thank you. So, returning to the motion, I very much support the addition of the part at the disadvantaging those towns and parishes moving into the expanded areas. We've got a lot of parishes and towns being absorbed by these large conurbations. The unitaries are unparished. There's a very unanswered question about what happens to parish and especially town precepts. It's not just here, it's across Devon. We've got huge towns being absorbed into cities, and nobody at any level seems to be addressing how to manage this. Is it just a hope that residents will just not notice that they're paying extra council tax in these parishes and towns compared to the cities when precepts are added? I would hope that might be looked at a Devon level, because it affects all of these parishes and towns across Devon. But at the moment, it just seems to be quietly forgotten.
Thank you. I'd just like to raise a point myself, actually. I've been at talking about Totnes, which is obviously right on the edge of the new rural area and Torbay, and takes off a slice of the residential area of Totnes. And so 2 meetings I've been to at the Planning Committee for Town Council this week, and also Traffic and Transport Forum last night. So Traffic and Transport Forum was very interesting, because obviously there's active travel routes being discussed, which go out from Totnes into what would now be Torbay. People wondering how will there be any funding? How will that change? How will those plans suddenly potentially be scuppered? Will there be a different focus? And one of the other things that came up was in terms of the rural area, we shouldn't forget, if it includes coastal is going to be massively affected by climate change. It is already. As a cabinet member at Devon, part of my responsibility is with flooding and working with the Environment Agency on various teams who look at multi-million projects, massive amounts of money which come out of the council's budget, supporting that, as well as with what comes through the Environment Agency. So those are the kind of costings that are going to affect an area which, where rural communities have lived and worked, since time memorial in coastal places as well. So don't forget that when it's not just the rural. The other thing that was raised was about the neighbourhood areas, the NHS areas, because there's local committees, and I think Councillor Yardy, this is something that would be very much, the health committee as well. How there's no tie up with any of that, so if that's that sort of difficulty, instead of local government reform addressing and bringing things closer together and making it more sensible for people to understand where they live, where they go for services, and how that all fits together. It seems that sort of complete obvious miss is there too. But one thing I would like to suggest is that actually we, doesn't have to be part of this, but we actually invite a delegation from the government to come down and see some of the poor areas of the county. Go to Ilfracombe, talk to some of the people there, talk to people in some of the heartland, of actually the cities as well. But, just to get a real understanding. So, I mean, many of us have been on planning committees. Site visits are so informative. And if they can, if they're going to do this to us, they can at least spare us a day to come down, love Devon like we do, but also to see some of the difficult places, and then to ask them at the end of the day, do you still think that what you're doing is right? I don't know how that can work, but I think that's something that maybe the group that are working on this collectively across the county should actually do that together. Sorry, Councillor in the back there. And then you.
Thanks, Jackie. I totally agree with what you say. I think to use the opportunity, I'm well aware of the futility of speculation, and I think there's a lot at the moment that we don't know. But I think bringing people down, inviting people down to see, and I think things like transport is a massive issue in what's going to be rural and coastal Devon. I live in a village that's got no bus service, so I cannot get to work unless, if my car breaks down, and I'd rather not use my car for every journey. I think healthcare is, I think Councillor Yardy talked about delivery of services, which actually has always been challenging in Devon because it's such a huge area. So I think we should use that opportunity to sort of make people in central government with our new Prime Minister and new cabinet, because they, you know, are pledging lots of positive things. So get them down as soon as possible, really, before, you know, all these decisions are made. And just say thanks for everyone that's doing all the hard work. And there's lots on social media about it too. So I've learned a lot from social media. I don't think people are very happy with it, and it's a big shock to people. But I think there are lots of issues that, you know, need to be addressed, and bringing people down that have made those decisions is a really good start. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor McKay.
Thank you. I think my biggest concern, and this is a question to those who know better than me, about the economic viability of this proposed coastal and countryside unitary. I mean, it is enormous. It's the biggest in the country, and it would appear to me that it just won't be financially viable, and so could well be bust in a couple of years' time. So at what point in this process will we have some real numbers to look at as to say whether it will be able to deliver the services across this enormous area? And also the point I'd like to make about discretionary services. I mean, currently a lot of all the councils do an awful lot of work in that area, and it is an important factor of what they're delivering. I mean, you know, obviously in the area that I'm concerned with, climate change and biodiversity projects, what Nadine's working on with arts and culture. There's business support that the council does, and also helping other community draw down funds for this, that and the other, using their bidding expertise and knowledge and contacts. All of that is going to go to the wall because there won't be, I would suggest, any funding for any of that. It will be about struggling to deliver just basic core services. And I was very interested in what Julian was saying about the possibility of a more strategic look at this, and how a strategic authority might be able to take on some of that burden across the whole of Devon, leaving the unitaries to behave more like districts in some ways. But if that were possible and these unitaries were brought up, that I can see how that might change the whole nature of what's being proposed. But that would appear to be a bit of a dream at the moment, and my real concern is that we need to understand properly the finances of how this is going to work as early as possible.
Thank you. Andy,
So thank you, Councillor McKay. It's the financial aspect of the process of implementing the new councils is absolutely at the top of the list of the to-do list. As I've already said, our finance director and finance directors across all of the councils in Devon are already meeting. They are a coherent group that's, you know, been a group and worked together as professionals for a long time. So they are crunching the numbers. They're already starting that process. We're going to commission external expertise so that we get an independent, verifiable source of information, and we'll bring that back. So I'm anticipating that the first element of that financial scrutiny will probably happen over the summer. So we are talking about weeks, not months. And I've got every confidence in Mrs. Buckle, very, very competent finance director for us in South Hams, in West Devon, but as a team, as a group, the finance directors across the county landscape are all very, very competent, and I'm very certain that they will get to the bottom of this quickly. I know they're already working on it.
Thank you. That'll be really important evidence as well for the JRs going forward. Does anybody else wish to speak on this? Yeah, Councillor Rake.
Just sort of on a point of order, Chair, and relating to and to try and assist Councillor Steele, he referred to the existing unitaries as not being parished. That's not strictly speaking true in the Torbay contains Brixham Town Council, and that might be an instructive discussion to have to see how they exist as a precepting body within a larger unitary, because I think that's for information, their annual precept on a band D is about £100, and it's an exciting challenge for town and parish councils to demonstrate that they provide value for money.
Yeah, it's good to know there's a precursor, and hopefully that can be looked at as a model across the county. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I think hopefully everybody who wants to speak has spoken. Thank you. It's been very mixed and very comprehensive, I think, some of the thinking that's come forward. I personally hope that, the sense of place that our new Prime Minister is happy to sort of just talk about as being very important, and bottom up and postcodes has been mentioned. A bottom up approach would hopefully start to prevail in this. Certainly, again, Totnes, having the top end of Totnes chopped off with residents wondering what on earth's going on, undermining what is in Totnes's case an ancient town, taking away its hinterland, its ancient hinterland, and its sense of place. That's a really good example of how not to do it. So I think this is something that, as we go forward, I think we've got a lot of very good material and thoughts to actually give good credibility to supporting and challenging this to the powers that be. So on that basis, I think we're ready. Do you want to speak again before we just?
No, I'm happy to move to the vote, Chair.
Okay, so we've had our amendments, our amended. I think it's 3 amendments. Recommendation before us. So can I have a show of hands for all those in favour?
Thank you, Chair. It's 26 unanimous in favour of the 4 recommendations.
Anybody against? And anybody abstaining? And please note, I'm not an abstaining chairperson. Thank you very much, everybody. Yeah, I was just about to say. So we're actually just going to have a 10-minute break now. There's coffee outside, and anybody wants a comfort break, and we'll come back just to finish up. We haven't got a lot more business to do. So thank you very much. Okay, thank you, everybody. So our next item. Did we do? So public question time is our next item on the agenda, and we have no public questions at this meeting. So on to item 7, which is fleet replacement programme for our waste and community services. Councillor Brazil was due to introduce this report, but I think Councillor Victor Abbott, is that correct? Is going to do this on his behalf as member of the executive. Okay, over to you then, Councillor.
Hi, thanks.
You're ready.
So, actually, thank you, Mr. Noyce, for the words, and this, which I'm going to read. This report is to support the funding of our operational vehicles in our essential frontline services for our residents, such as waste and recycling. The vehicle replacement is funded through loans. The cost of loans is funded through savings being generated by the services. Due to the long lead times, up to 18 months, we are approving the programme for this financial year and next year so that procurement and orders can be completed. And the good thing about this is that we're giving the right tools for our people to do the right job. And of course, we wouldn't expect that to be anything else. We can't have unreliable vehicles getting old and breaking down. We can't bear unnecessary repair costs. What we need is to invest in this and to have the right vehicles for our people. So we want to support our essential services, essential that was supposed to be, and need to give our staff the right tools for the work. Right? The motion is before you.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Has anybody got any questions for Councillor Abbott?
Be all
right. Yes, sorry to raise this ugly word, but what happens in the case of LGR? I really apologise. I really sorry.
Well, we'll carry on.
Serious question is, you know, fleets need to be of the same type across boundaries, don't they? And you know, or for operational efficiency, I would assume. So has that question been thought about and taken into account so that we don't waste our money?
I can actually slightly answer that because actually there's the DASWIC, which is the Devon Association of Waste Committees across the county, who have been looking at some elements of LGR and harmonisation. So yes, it's under consideration, but not necessarily resolved. Sorry, Mr. Mundy, would you like to come in?
Thank you, Chair. So fleets don't have to be the same, and clearly at this point, operationally, I expect we will still be collecting waste across the whole area because at this point, the chance of having different waste services completed with everything else by the 1st of April is minimal from my perspective. Any investment in those vehicles, I think we absolutely would be able to sell those vehicles, transfer those vehicles if we needed to, but I don't think that that's an issue we need to worry about. At the moment, the bigger issue is that the risk of the vehicles failing, the current vehicles failing, and then impacting our collection regime at the moment and impacting residents' collections. That's the biggest risk at the minute.
Thank you. Has anybody else got any questions? Yes. Oh, sorry, Councillor Rake.
Thank you, Chair. Just to check, a large part of this council's decarbonisation programme relies on the shift to hydrogenated vegetable oil use in our waste fleet, and just to check that all identified vehicles will be suitable for taking that on. And I'd like you to answer this, Councillor Abbott.
Thank you, Councillor Rake. I have an expert just behind me.
Yeah, so the trial which we've ran last year is coming back to members soon, but all the vehicles we're replacing are pretty much like for like. They're just the newer version, so they're all diesel vehicles which can take HVO.
Thank you, that's very reassuring.
I'm so pleased you're glad with my answer.
Okay, thank you. If there's no more questions, then Councillor Abbott, are you proposing this? And I need a seconder as well.
I am, they are.
Okay, so which one, who's first? Councillor Dommett, thank you very much. Okay, so it's proposed and seconded. Does anybody want to make any comment on this, or would you? Happy to just, oh, go on, Councillor Thomas.
Very briefly, just to thank the team for the fact that this is being paid for through savings, and therefore I think is a positive no-brainer for this council.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to take a vote now. All those in favour, please show.
That's 25 unanimous. Thank you, Chair.
Item 8 is honorary older men and women. An updated process. So, Councillor Thomas, you're going to introduce the report on this.
I am. Thank you, Chair. You'll note the recommendations are to basically review and approve updated criteria for appointing honorary aldermen. And basically, the most germane part of the report, therefore, you will find at 3.1. 3.1 explains that the title may be conferred on basically anyone who's rendered eminent services to the council as past members. 3.1b defines eminent service as being at least 20 years service as a district councillor, or at least 4 years, one term, service as leader of the council and or leader of the council's main opposition group. And then C, to save Councillor Bonham the inevitable LGR question, tells you what happens, that they cease to hold office if for the term of their active service, but if LGR doesn't happen, so if they get re-elected, they lose their status, but if when they stand down from being re-elected, they get their alderman status reconferred. So that's what happens if LGR doesn't happen. If LGR does happen, they just remain alderman into the mists of time for an organisation that no longer exists. Thank you. But either way, really, you know, it is. You'll see at 3.3. There's no legal or social precedence, but I will make no secret of the fact that I have people in mind of both political colours of the main political parties that have represented this council over the last few years. I have people in mind that I, as a group leader, will be talking to my group to put forward, who I feel deserve recognition before we're wound up. And I know, having spoken to Councillor Hopwood, that she will have names that she'll discuss with her group as well. Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Long, as group leaders, we'd be very happy to hear from you as well. I'm not actually sure if we vote this through. I can't immediately think the obvious person who would qualify, who is a member of the Green Party, is currently sitting in the chair's position, and therefore isn't eligible, I'm afraid, by dint of the fact that they are a serving councillor. There are other members in this room and ones who've just left who would also meet the criteria if they weren't sitting councillors. but we're not allowed to give it to sitting councillors, I'm afraid. But that doesn't to stop group leaders from putting forward nominations as the paper recommends, assuming we agree the criteria. Happy to take questions at that stage.
Councillor Dommett.
So it's just a reflection of time served, as opposed to any magical things they've done during their time served.
It says eminent, so we've had to find a way of describing what eminent service might mean. There is no hard and fast rule, but we had to pick some sort of criteria, and so
And we've gone with time
we've
served.
gone with long service. Absolutely, yes.
Councillor Penfold.
Might be an obvious question, but does this criteria allow for past councillors to be put forward for a posthumous title?
It does, and your candidate and my candidate will be the same person, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Councillor Abbott.
I really welcome this. I think there's an inherent injustice and in what's gone on before, and I'm glad to see that this is likely to overcome something which I feel quite cross about, and I won't mention. Just on what was mentioned 5 minutes ago. Is it within the gift of this decision to include the venerable people who have served over 20 years but are still serving?
No, the law doesn't. The position of alderman is granted to those who have ceased to be a serving councillor.
Is there a way to do it after this council no longer exists? Because they've done really long service and great things, and it seems a shame that they wouldn't have that title that doesn't run there.
We've got next year to worry about that, maybe.
You could resign a month before the end.
Yeah. So, Councillor Bonham.
Yes, I hope the chair doesn't mind me raising this question, given what she said earlier about not being wanted to be called a chairman. Is the title alderman the right phrase for the moment?
It's going to be my amendment, actually.
Well, I'm going to come back to that because I don't want an amendment. What I want is that if we confer a title on somebody, that we give them the self-respect to choose how they call themselves, frankly. So if we were to give the title to somebody who chooses to be, to a female, and the female wants to be called alderman, that's their choice. If they want to be called alderwoman, that's their choice. What I don't want is what I don't want is a protracted conversation about us choosing what they should call themselves. The legal title is alderman. It is a gender neutral title in the sense that it doesn't mean man in the man sense. But if we agree this, and a past councillor who is female receives a position and they want to be known as older woman or older person or older man or older, that's up to them. I think we should basically, I don't know if anyone knows older, that's rather, yes, it might be factually accurate, but rather damning, I would have thought. But I think we should, my personal view is we should respect people's choice to because it might be that they might choose to be called alderman, because alderman for the older generation is the title. So personally, I would be more relaxed about letting people choose. But democracy is democracy. If you want to move an amendment and it passes, that's up to you. You don't need an amendment.
Okay.
My advice against. So thank you, Chair. So I think the leader's suggestion is by far the best way to deal with this. We cannot change the legal framework. The legal framework is clear in its definition, but as the leader has said, leaving it open to those who are given the honour to decide what they wish to be called is by far the most dignified approach. Thank you. Sorry, I wasn't seeking to deny you the opportunity to speak.
So does anybody else want to ask questions? Because we'll move into the debate. Okay, so we've got a formal proposal from Councillor Thomas. And who's going to second this?
I'll second it, Chairman.
Okay,
Chair.
Okay, thank you. That's proposed and seconded. Do you want to speak further on it at this stage, Councillor Thomas?
No, look, I mean, what I've just said is my personal view. It is my personal view, but at the same time, I would hope it leaves open the right of people to make their own choice. How the council feels is not something. It's not a hill I'm worried about dying on. It's just my personal opinion. Other than that, I'm happy to listen to the views of other people.
Okay, Councillor Hopwood, do you want to speak now or speak at the end?
I'll speak at the end. Thanks.
So, does anybody else wish to speak? I was putting myself last. I'm happy to, yeah, so I will speak. So does anybody else want to say anything? Okay, so I will speak now then. So yeah, I'd like to propose a recommendation, which is for appointing former councillors, men and women, to the position of the formal title of honorary alderman of the council. So that actually invites men and women to be considered and makes it clear it's that. I'm not happy with it remaining as alderman, but I mean, if that's something we can't alter, and again, given the fact that we've only got 2 years left of this council, I don't think it's too much. So most of us will probably still be here. So it's, I wonder how that's going to pan out. So that would be my proposal.
Are you suggesting just simply to clarify the point that it is absolutely open? Yeah, I'm absolutely happy to accept that clarification because it was never intended to be anything other than that. And indeed, when I talk to my group and I put a list of names down that I think meet the criteria based on this for my group to discuss, there will be at least 2 names on there that I can immediately think of who will be female councillors. You have to bear in mind, what I can't do is change the past, and Councillor Panel's already alluded to the fact that you could at one point count on the fingers of one hand, probably half a hand, how many female councillors there actually were. And that is a historic fact that I can't change. So actually, inevitably, there will be more potential male candidates than females, but I can't help that. I can't help that. You know, that's a true depiction of the demographic nature of who's been a councillor in the last X number of years.
Well, just to take advantage of my position here, I would just actually say that I think that's, so be it. We know the past, but if we want to change the future, we have to be prepared to work out how that can look and feel and encourage everybody to feel welcome. And I think that's the really important part of this, is actually rather than saying, well, we can't change it because we have changed it, because we do allow both men and women to stand for this, but it doesn't mean to say that we can't make it clear in any statements we make around it. Otherwise, we're just kind of allowing the past to control the future when it doesn't need to. So I'm happy. I think that's a moderate request to that amendment. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dommett, thank you.
I've already said, Chair, I'm very happy to accept that as the substantive recommendation.
But I thought it might be helpful to have a seconder as well, as part of the process, if you don't mind. And you've accepted it as well, Councillor Hopwood. Yeah. Have you? Sorry, I'm asking you.
Okay, I will. I won't say what I was going to say. I just think it's pointless. But it's that to me is obvious and doesn't need pointing out. But if you want me to accept it, yes, I'll accept it. But I don't agree with it. But I will accept it.
Mixed messages there, Councillor Hopwood. But anyway, thank you very much. Right, okay, so will we have to go to the vote?
Yeah.
Okay, so all those in favour, please show.
That's 25 at the end. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So, yeah, item 9, reports of bodies. So, Councillor Long, would you like to present your Development Management Committee meeting of the 7th of May?
Thank you, Chairman. You have the minutes of the meeting of the Development Management Committee of the 7th of May 2026 and the 11th of June 2026 for noting, Chair.
Thank you. And the executive for the 4th of June, Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. I present the minutes of the executive meeting held on the 4th of June, for which there were no recommendations.
Thank you. Item 10, questions of notice. I have no questions have been notified to me. Item 11, motions on notice. Known motions on notice have been received. And so that brings us towards the end of the meeting. And I just want to thank you for your attendance. And before I formally close the meeting, just tell you that lunch will be served in the Repton room. And I hope you'll join us. And thank you very much. And sorry,
Sorry, can I ask a question on the last executive? Or is that me too?
it's kind of gone quickly.
I sort of whizzed through it. I missed it. Sorry. So, yeah, I'm going to mention LGR again. Sorry. Yeah, it's the executive meeting from the 16th of July. Yeah, can I ask a question about that? Just.
No, that's not being. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, it's there, isn't it? The last two. It's on 9B. Yeah, I'm doubting myself now. Yeah, okay. Anyway, the what? Sorry. But we've also, Darryl added the 16th of July, just in the last day or so.
I didn't present them. I didn't present those.
Okay. Are you going to present them or?
Well, I made a mistake, Councillor Callahan. I don't need more go and vote papers and meetings.
Well,
But if they haven't, then
they've been updated somewhere.
No, they were to follow because we published the agenda for this meeting last Wednesday. The meeting was held last Thursday. We published the minutes on Monday, so they're in a supplementary pack. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay, we'll go back on that one.
All right.
Excuse me.
no, not yet because I haven't found them.
It's under 9B. It's under the
I
supplement.
know, but I have to open them.
Do you want my
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I can now present the minutes of the meeting held on the 16th of July.
Oh, my apologies, I jumped on
which
that one.
come with a recommendation which has been superseded by agenda item 8 today,
Yeah.
which was the Public Works Loan Board for the fleet replacement, which we dealt with, and that was the only recommendation. So, yeah, I'm happy to present those for noting and evisceration by Councillor O'Callaghan.
No, that's not my intention at all. I was just merely asking a question.
Did you have any question on that? You're right now.
I do have. My question wasn't about that. My question was relating to the executive meeting, which has now been presented by.
Everybody's happy.
Councillor. So I know
Fine.
everyone wants to go to lunch, but
Thank you. Right.
Yeah, but I am going to mention LGR because my question is, and hopefully it'll be brief, is in the executive meeting we discussed the draft revenue report, and at 3.1 particularly we mentioned the capital expenditure with relation to the Freeport, the land that was purchased at Sherford, borrowing was involved, and that was going to be repaid by business rates income. And going back to LGR, now that I think an hour after the meeting it was announced that it was going to be Greater Plymouth, Greater Exeter, Greater Torbay, and then Devon Coast and Countryside. So now we know. So in the light of that, I just wanted clarification, probably from Lisa, about what happens with relation to those business rates incomes. Do we get them, or does Plymouth get them, and what does that mean, please? Okay.
Let's let Councillor Birch just press.
Okay.
Yeah, can I answer the question? I think there are. I think the way of dealing with this question is that in a future executive meeting there will be a report concerning the affairs of the Freeport and the consequences of local government reorganisation, bearing in mind that this is just for noting. I think rather than getting involved in the detail of a Freeport, I think bearing in mind, I just said a moment ago that there's a report coming, I think that would be the time and place to deal with the question.
Yes.
So just to add, so the formation of the Freeport had rules around the ways in which business rates that were related to the business within Freeport are dealt with, and unless Mrs. Buckle tells me different, I don't think that anything has changed.
No, that's right. Thank you.
So the business rates are ring-fenced for a period of time within the vehicle of the Freeport. So in terms of the specific question, it doesn't have any bearing on it.
In other words, we don't get our money back. Just saying. Okay. Right. Okay.
Find
as
out
we
in the
were.
fullness of time, apparently, so that's good.
Okay, thank you for raising that. Thank you for the answer. My apologies for missing that properly on the agenda here. So as we were, lunch in the Repton at 1 o'clock. And thank you very much for attending and have a nice summer.
Now, hopefully.
Well, well,